Senator Kennedy.
Dr. Shelton, I want you to assume a couple of facts for me. Assume that you're queen for a day and you're running the Federal Reserve and you have unfettered discretion. Assume that economic circumstances in the United States and the world are the same as they are right now, except the bottom has fallen out of consumer confidence and spending. Unemployment has jumped from 3.5% to 6.5% in a very short period of time, and we're in a recession. How would you get us out?
Well, thank you for the question.
You're welcome.
It's hard to imagine that situation, but the first
Assume
thing,
it's true, and tell me if you could, because they only give us 5 minutes.
well,
How you would get us out?
it wouldn't be up to me, even if I were queen or chairman. That's the importance of having a discussion.
You're using my time, Doc. Let's please assume what I just told you, and you're running the Federal Reserve, and you don't have to answer to anybody. What would you do? I think you understand the question.
I would go to the mandate, and I would talk with the other members of the FOMC about the appropriate monetary policy to help restore.
What is the appropriate monetary policy? What would you do? You don't have to talk to anybody. What would you do? How are you going to get us out of the recession?
Well, the problem we have now is we're very close to zero on interest rates.
Yes, ma'am. What would you do to get us out of the recession?
I think we're down to the other tools that the Federal Reserve has.
Would you lower interest rates?
I would never go negative. I'm averse to that idea. And so the alternative is
I'm
more.
sorry, I'm not trying to be rude, but
quantitative
easing. Just give us 5 minutes. Would you take them to zero?
At the maximum. And I don't like to say you would eliminate courses of action, but I'd be very reluctant to go below that. Okay. The Fed can always engage in purchases of assets.
Take them to zero, but you wouldn't go negative.
I think it undermines the financial structure.
Yeah. You would go to quantitative easing?
Very reluctantly, but I think first I would make it clear that there are limits to monetary policy. At some point, you really can't stimulate growth. I would call for fiscal.
Again, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you would go to quantitative easing.
That's your only alternative if you think
what volume would you use? Now, we've gone from 3.5 to 6.5 interest rate, bottom falling out of consumer confidence. How much are you going to buy a month?
Well, every round of QE has been less effective than the prior rounds.
I understand. How much are you going to buy a month?
I would probably look at what the most recent one was, so we're looking at approximately $80 billion a month.
Okay. Do you think Congress ought to start, well, we're already deficit spending. We're already like a problem gambler chasing his losses. But would you recommend fiscal stimulus and that we have a stimulus package?
Obviously, that's up to Congress, not the Federal Reserve.
I'm asking your recommendation. I get that.
Well, there might be incentives.
Would you recommend that we go to a stimulus package?
It depends what it is. If it's just spending more for projects that aren't shovel-ready, I don't think that's good. But if you can restore business confidence and encourage business capital investment through tax reform, that could be helpful.
Okay, so you think we should just increase deficit spending?
I don't like deficits, but I
understand. I'm just asking what you do.
In an emergency situation, I think the most important thing is to restore that consumer and business confidence.
Would you recommend that we deficit spend dramatically?
Reluctantly, if it appears that there's stimulus potential in doing so, but that would be Congress's decision.
That's a yes?
If you're down to the wire.
Okay. I got 38 seconds. Dr. Walker, could you answer my question? What would you do?
Yeah, this would be the standard monetary policy toolkit. You'd cut interest rates probably as low as you could to zero. Step two, you'd typically use forward guidance, which was trying to signal to the markets how long you would tend to keep interest rates low.
Yeah, you try to talk them down.
Try to talk them down. I would agree you need some fiscal support since we're constrained by the lower bound, because I personally would not want to go negative.
Would you do quantitative easing?
Quantitative easing would be a possibility if you wanted to try to lower longer-term.
How much?
That would be a quantitative measure. I don't know. In terms
What's your
of,
gut tell you?
my gut tell me?
Yeah, we've gone from 3.5 to 6.5. I'm talking fast, Mr. Chairman.
You're out of time.
I'm going to land this plane.
I'll throw out a number, 500 million.
500 million.
500
Thank you.
billion.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.